Alrighty, just a couple of disclaimers I'd like to get out of the way before we start the video. First one is a lot of the information was compiled from SarahB.net's website. They have a whole comprehensive list of Pokemon Edition consoles on their website. A link to that is going to be in the description down below. And secondly, there's a Candy Eevee video that goes over the same topic from about 6 years ago. So this one's going to be a little bit more updated. So if you've seen that one, hopefully we'll have some new information for you in this one. So thank you for watching. Special Edition consoles. There's a lot of them out there, folks, specifically for Pokemon. It's the highest grossing franchise of all time, and this truly shows why. So we're going to start with the Game Boy Color. One of the very first Pokemon Edition consoles was the special Game Boy Light that was released exclusively at the Tokyo Pokemon Center in Japan as a tie-in to the first Pokemon movie. The promotion for the first Pokemon movie was a cultural event. Burger King had exclusive Pokemon toys in the lead-up to the release of the movie. Wizards of the Coast made exclusive promo cards that were given out to attendees of the movie. I have a few in my card collection. Hell, even Topps made a set of 72 Pokemon cards that featured scenes from the movie and the opening short Pikachu's Vacation. The downside of this one is that it was a Japanese exclusive, and if you wanted to buy one today, hey man, I hope you have both your kidneys because you're going to have to sell one to afford it. Some of them are selling for over $1,000, and they don't even include the special carry bag or the box that it came in. Overall, I think this console is actually one of the better ones since it was the only backlit Game Boy available anywhere until the release of the Game Boy Advance SP, which didn't release until 2003. In the late 90s and early 2000s, during the hype of Pokemania, Pokemon and Nintendo decided to capitalize on the special edition console market with several Game Boy Colors. And a peripheral? Yes, so apparently the Game Boy Pocket Printer was released on September 12th, 1998. Weirdly enough, it was 3 years to the date before anyone collectively decided to never fly again. What did the Game Boy Printer do? It predates the Pokemon Game Boy Light by a whole year. It was mainly released as a tie-in to the Pokemon Yellow version where you could use it to print out the Pokedex stickers, the diploma you get for completing the Pokedex, and even your high score for the Pikachu Beach minigame. It also supported the second generation of Pokemon games. I imagine it was used as more of a novelty back then, but I can't help but think of how cool it must have been for kids, whose parents had the money, to print out Pokedex entries of their favorite Pokemon to show off. The Pokemon Yellow Game Boy Color originally released in Japan, also on September 12th, 1998, and later came to the States in the fall of 1999. This one featured Pikachu, Jigglypuff, and Togepi on the border of the screen. There were different variants for this one, exclusive to Taiwan and Hong Kong respectively. They both featured that early 2000s aesthetic of see-through technology, which I admittedly enjoy. The weird thing, though, is these ones switched out Togepi for Meowth. Maybe Meowth was more marketable and recognizable because of the cartoon? Or maybe it had to do with Togepi being a brand new Pokemon. Actually, fun fact, these places never got the Gen 2 Pokemon games until they were released in 2017 on the Virtual Console for the 3DS store. It would explain the lack of Gen 2 promotion for the Game Boy Colors. Either way, these Game Boys were the blueprint, and they had set the standard for everything else coming after it to live up to. There were two more Japan-exclusive Game Boy Colors that were released in November of '99. One was orange and featured the Kanto starters along the screen border to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of the Pokemon games. Now I appreciate the decision to have Charmander's tail light up the power indicator. Attention to details like that make these console releases that much better in my opinion. Now the second one featured the Johto starters and coincided with the release of Gold and Silver. The anniversary Game Boy has an odd color palette, but honestly, these are both cool in their own way. The final Pokemon Edition Game Boy Color came out everywhere in 2000, except for Europe, who had to wait till 2001. This one was the Pikachu and Pichu edition, which had a few different variants. One was yellow because, of course it's Pikachu, it has to be. There was a silver edition to promote the Gen 2 releases, and honestly, it's really the only special edition Game Boy I remember from this time. I enjoy this one purely for nostalgia purposes. I remember my friends next door had one and they never used it because by the time they found it in their basement, the Game Boy Advance was already well into its lifespan. Speaking of which, Pokemon Game Boy Advance and Advance SP consoles. I didn't realize how many of these Pokemon and Nintendo churned out. There were a few more Pokemon movie-related Game Boys that were all exclusive to Japan, and more that promoted every single major Pokemon release on the GBA. I kid you not. There were Ruby and Sapphire GBA SP bundles that came with a carry case and featured Groudon and Kyogre on the outside of the GBA, and another for Emerald that had Rayquaza on it. Two more for the release of Fire Red and Leaf Green. They even had one for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's debut. And it was a damn Game Boy Micro. The SP also had Japanese Pokemon Center exclusives. One was orange and had Torchic featured on it. The other was also a Toys R Us exclusive and had a big old Pikachu face on the outside, which was nice that they're keeping up with the tradition of make it yellow and make it Pikachu. Trust me, there's a lot more of these. The GBA movie tie-ins are unfortunately my least favorite out of all the Game Boy Advances. They just made the color of it the same as the legendary Pokemon for the movie they were promoting, and then slapped a silhouette decal of the Pokemon on the bottom border of the screen. There was the Suicune Blue GBA and the Celebi Green GBA, which were both fun colors in their own right. I just find it weird for how Suicune's GBA, they thought, yeah, let's put Pikachu and Pichu on there. But for Celebi's, they said, nah, put Celebi on there. Twice! It just seems like a weird place to take a stand on. The Latios and Latios GBA gets extra points for creativity due to its decision to use two different colors. It really pops out at you. Not in a great way, and more of a, hey, somebody is flashing a laser pointer in my eye and I'd like it to stop, please, kind of way. I don't know. Maybe it's more the design of the console itself as opposed to the color and SP that makes it feel like an awkward phase the Game Boy went through right before hitting its stride. There's one more Pokemon Game Boy Advance that was released, except this time it was a North American exclusive. Well, not really, since the Japanese Pokemon centers also began selling it shortly after. This was a gold GBA that came out to celebrate the grand opening of the Pokemon Center store in New York City, and honestly, I find it charming since the Game Boy Color had a silver variant with Pikachu and Pichu, and this one was gold. What's next? A diamond or a platinum Pokemon console? Oh, huh. Oh, the Nintendo DS. One of my favorite gaming systems of all time. You had more Pokemon Edition consoles in your lifetime than I've had friends. We'll start with the worst one, which was the Special Mew Edition, which was a slightly pink first generation DS with a barely visible silhouette of Mew on the back of the top screen. Yeah, the Pokemon Company loves its silhouettes. A Poke Park Edition DS was given away exclusively at the Poke Park Amusement Park in Japan, and then was briefly sold in the States at Walmart for some reason. I guess Target wasn't available. I do think the idea for this one is really cool, and I bet it is somebody's prized possession. The Daisuke Club released promotional DSs for only its members, and all of them featured faces of the Gen 4 starters. They also had a Pikachu exclusive DS where the font on the front of the DS was changed. Only 40 of them were allegedly distributed. The Daisuke Club website had another exclusive Origin Form Giratina DS, which looks pretty sick, and it came with Pokemon Platinum, so it seems like this one was a pretty solid deal all things considered. It also had a limited release outside of Japan, including through the European Stars catalog, which could be redeemed for 30,000 stars. Now, I'm not really sure what the exchange rate for 30,000 stars is to the American dollar, but I'd like to imagine due to inflation, it's probably worth at least $1,000 today. Now we have the token Yellow Pikachu console, which had a lottery-based system that you needed to win to even have a chance to purchase it in Pokemon centers in Japan. Thankfully, it was later sold in North America with either Pokemon Diamond or Pearl, but imagine winning that lottery and not having enough money to buy it. That'd be heartbreaking, dude.
And who can forget the Dialga and Palkia Nintendo DS Lite? Not me, nope.
Now we're getting to the DSi's, starting with the Pokemon Black and White promo consoles that were, hey man, you guessed it, black and white consoles, which had the box legendaries on the front. I mean, y'all know how this goes by now. One of my personal favorite Pokemon consoles is the Orange 2010 World Championship Edition DSi, which was only given to those who placed in the top 32 of Worlds that year. There's apparently two versions, one with a white outline and one with black, and it most recently sold for $850, so it's worth quite the pretty penny. There were only 112 models ever made. And next, folks, we have the Nintendo 3DS. The 3DS has so many special edition versions outside of Pokemon that it could be its own separate video. There's a yellow Pikachu 3DS. I don't think I need to elaborate further, folks. These are an inevitability, like the death of the universe or getting stuck behind a slow driver when you're late for work. It just happens. We do have this sick as hell Charizard 3DS that was released to celebrate the new anime season, but was only purchasable through a lottery system. I'm starting to think that the Pokemon Company is to blame for the artificial price gouging of Pokemon-related material, mostly because everything's gambling with them. You gotta gamble in a lottery to even have a chance to purchase, yet they took the gambling out of the Gen 1 games. There was another lottery-based 3DS that featured Eevee. The color palette of this one screams 1972 living room aesthetic. It's not that great unless you like Eevee in my opinion. Now, Pokemon X and Y are decisive Pokemon games, but their special editions are absolute bangers! The premium gold silhouette version that featured all the Kalos starters and both box legendaries are peak design. Just mwah! Unfortunately, it's a Japan exclusive. But the red and blue consoles that came with a pre-downloaded game depending on which color you purchased are just terrific. They must have had a lot of fun making these. Plus they were available to everybody, so bonus points in not creating false scarcity. There's a couple of Pokemon Trotsy 3DSs which both required contest entries to win them. They look solid, but I've never met anybody who's played Pokemon Trotsy. I'm not even sure if it's a real game. There's a 3DS that was given out during soccer games of Japan's 4 football clubs. This one features Ash from the movie Cocoon of Destruction, and it looks fake as hell, man. It's like one of the plethora of custom consoles people make online, but this decal just looks kinda cheap. We also have 3 special editions to celebrate the releases of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that all feature the box legendaries on them. Of course, they're red and blue as well. But these ones are all so sleek. The see-through cover plate circles us all the way back to the early 2000s aesthetic of see-through technology, and I love that. We also have a Pikachu cover plate, so we'll add that to the Pikachu tally. We got a Super Mystery Dungeon and a 20th Anniversary Edition cover plate that both feature sprites of Pokemon from their respective games. And now, folks, we finally get to the belle of the ball. The 20th Anniversary Edition bundle of the 3DS that featured either Charizard or Blastoise to commemorate the original Red and Blue games. These consoles also came preloaded with one of the original games on them. If you wanted to buy one secondhand today, it'd cost you upward of $500 on the low end, over $1,200 if it's still in the box. For some godforsaken reason, the 3DS got another Pikachu edition, but this one was for the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon. I'm seeing a lot of sun and no moon on this one because it's so aggressively yellow. I have eye damage from looking at pictures of this, and I don't know if my insurance will cover it. The healthcare system needs to be reworked. Of course, Sun and Moon got their own edition released in Japan, so at least they weren't forgotten. Around this time, Nintendo released a cheaper version of the 3DS called the 2DS. That's not how sequels work. And it's personally my favorite handheld console right behind the Nintendo Switch. It's cheap and it works. I'm not picky. The 2DS had a light blue variant with the Gen 7 starters on the back and some really retro see-through versions that coincided with Pokemon's 20th anniversary. Each one featured a color of the original 4 Gen 1 games. The green variant, however, was never released in America. Are you sick of the DSs yet? No? Good, because now we have the 2DS XL Pikachu model. I'm losing grip on reality. I see Pikachu's face everywhere I go. Now there's no escape from me. I've seen the face of God and it stared back. We also got a Pokeball version of the 2DS XL, which is simple yet effective. So this one is one of the best ones out there. And now, folks, we're up to date with the Nintendo Switch. One of the best consoles made if you don't mind less than 30 FPS. There's not many Pokemon Special Editions for the Switch. In fact, the only ones made were for the mainline game releases. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee got one bundle that came with a download code for either game and had both Pokemon on the Switch dock with special yellow and brown Joy-Cons. Pokemon Sword and Shield got a Switch Lite version, which honestly is very eye-catching with the pink and blue button colors. Unfortunately, this one did not come with the game it was promoting, which feels like a missed opportunity. We have a Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Switch Lite edition, which features a decal callback to the original Diamond and Pearl DS release. Also, again, no game. The games were hated by most, but this Switch is loved by me. Finally, we have the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet OLED Switch, which comes with a killer Switch dock decal and artwork on the back of the Switch itself. This is the most recent Pokemon exclusive special edition console as of recording this video. Somehow we've escaped the curse of the yellow Pikachu, and I, for one, could not be more grateful for it.
It seems like people are tired of yellow Pikachu consoles. What do we do? I got it. Let's take the normal gray Switch. And just put the smallest Pikachu silhouette at the corner, and charge $200 for it. This will make an amazing and unforgettable special edition console.
Now, I skipped over some Nintendo 64 and GameCube versions, so here's the lightning round, folks. The Pikachu N64 has 3 color variants, and they're all awesome. The Pokemon Stadium Battle set released exclusively in Australia came with a bonus VHS tape, so it gets points for creativity, especially since the box for the console looks as nice as it does. The Pokemon XD Gales of Darkness Silver GameCube was the only one of these consoles I ever owned. I got it one year as a Christmas present, and I played Gales of Darkness for hours at a time. Mostly because the game is incredibly difficult for an 8-year-old with limited reading comprehension. The Shadow Lugia faceplate is a 10 out of 10 for me. There was also an orange Pokemon Channel GameCube to promote the best Pokemon game ever, TV Simulator. And Pokemon Coliseum didn't get a special edition, but it did receive some cool decal stickers. And now, the greatest Pokemon console ever made. The Pokemon Sega Pico, and damn it, it's the yellow Pikachu one. No, why? Not even Sega was safe from this? Oh, well, I guess it all begins and ends with Pikachu, huh? We'll never escape him. Just want to say if you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate your time. Feel free to let me know which console was your favorite, and if you hated them all, that's cool too. Thank you for watching.